responsibility. The milkman, the paperboy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look, there's a place.
Good afternoon, America. Welcome to Antebellum Action News. I'm your host, Simran Dhal, and today is a very blessed day. We're going to be talking about a very radical issue of abolition and slavery. And so we're going to go straight to Kyle, who's going to tell us a little bit about the beliefs and motives of abolitionism. So here we go.
As you can see here, there is a major increase in new ideas and philosophies spurring from the Enlightenment movement from Europe and the American and French revolutions. In the later part of the 1700s, Christian morality, developing thoughts regarding liberty and human rights, came about. Also, economic changes led to an effort among the American society to end slavery. Much of the movement is also derived by the religious fervor that arose during the Second Great Awakening, since many felt religion justifies emancipation. Sexualism was also a major factor as North and South grew apart. Politics and religion in the North started to support abolitionist ideals, while the South still remains a firm advocate for keeping slavery. Ultimately, the main goal of the abolitionist movement is the end of slavery. Abolitionists actively believe and act within this movement due to their arguments consisting of moral and religious reasoning and the reference to the Constitution as well.
Now an interview with Theodore Parker.
Hello, today I'll be interviewing Theodore Parker.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming. So tell us how you got into promoting abolitionism.
So basically I'm a Unitarian and I have a lot of moral beliefs that I just kind of want to express. And emancipating slaves is one of them because I think it's wrong. Even though I do think that the Anglo-Saxon race is more superior than other races.
What have you done in regards to abolitionists?
So basically, I was a minister at large, so I was a minister at large to fugitive slaves in Boston, and I'm also the chair of the Vigilance Committee, which is basically a committee an organization that I started in Boston, which helps fugitive slaves with hiding and preventing the recapture of their recapture, because especially after the fugitive slave law of 1850, basically we find it very unfair that free slaves have to be returned back because they basically achieved their independence. And ultimately we are just strong in promoting the emancipation of slaves.
What's your story in regarding the crafts?
So what happened was the crafts were two slaves that escaped from Macon, Georgia, and they got up to Boston, and a lot of the slavery recapturing people were after them, especially after the law, because in the law it required you and they're like rewards. So they were going to be caught, but the Vigilance Committee stepped in and we protected them, and I took them into my own home and we got them to Canada. So that was a success story we had with the crafts.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
It was great.
And now an interview with Wendell Phillips.
Hello, and welcome back to Antebellum Action News. Today, we have Wendell Phillips.
Hello, thank you for having me on your show.
All right, let's get started. So tell me about how you got into promoting abolitionism.
So I was a lawyer before, and I actually came into contact with a close friend of mine named William Garrison, and he kind of influenced me into getting into abolitionism. And because I was a lawyer before, a lot of my lawyer skills that I incorporate, learn speaking and preaching, I kind of just used to my advantage in promoting my morals and beliefs that are basically against slavery.
And what have you accomplished?
So, I don't want to brag or anything, but, I'm known as a pretty good orator. In fact, a lot of times people call me Abolition's Golden Trumpet.
Oh.
And this kind of came from the time when, if you recall, Elijah Lovejoy's death, that was known in the news. And I honestly think he's a martyr, and I really expressed that at at this conference at Faneuil Hall. And so basically, I just made my opinion heard, and a lot of people kind of saw that. That's actually where I came to become closer friends with William Lloyd Garrison.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's kind of where I started out. And later on, I participated in, I have this thing called the Free Produce Movement, which basically I don't wear anything or like eat anything that's made by slaves. So like sugar from canes or cotton, like I don't wear cotton. Yeah. And also I participate, or I'm in the American Anti-Slavery Society, and and hopefully I'll become the president if Garrison.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. So what are your goals and thoughts about abolitionism and slavery?
So basically, I think the North needs to really just get together and fight slavery and not let the South have slavery, because it's just so wrong. And basically, that's my major belief. And I also think that basically my major belief is that slavery is unconstitutional. Bottom line, it's unconstitutional. It's against that people are equal, and it's just not right. So, yeah.
All right, there you have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips.
Thank you.
Frederick Douglass was born a slave in 1818, and at a young age he learned to read and write. He often said knowledge is the pathway from slavery to freedom, and he began reading newspapers and political materials that helped him develop his beliefs to condemn slavery. After escaping his masters, Douglass and his wife moved to Massachusetts, and he joined a black domination church there and became a preacher. That's where his abolitionist career took off, and he came into contact with William Lloyd Garrison, a leading abolitionist. Both were mutually impressed with one another, especially Douglass, who was greatly impressed by Garrison's newspaper, The Liberator. Douglass's popularity increased after publishing his autobiography, which was influenced by Garrison, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. Its significance is that it's one of the major true accounts of a slave and one's personal injustices. Finally, Douglass provided America with the truth in an urgent time and a powerful voice to represent human rights and justices. And now an interview with William Lloyd Garrison.
Hello, and welcome back to Antebellum Action News. Joining us today, we have William Lloyd Garrison, and he is going to tell us about his action in the abolitionist movement. Starting off, William, tell me what you did as a child.
So I was born in Massachusetts, and my parents were immigrants from New Brunswick. And basically, as a child, we weren't very well off. So I had to sell homemade lemonade, and I had to sell firewood, and it wasn't much fun. But later on, I got an apprenticeship as a writer, and that's something I greatly enjoyed. So that really helped my writing skills and kind of helped me get to where I am today.
So tell me, what influenced you to become one of the leading abolitionists of your time?
I'd have to say the religious revival that kind of took America by surprise, I guess, and it was the Second Great Awakening. And it just showed me that how unchristian it is to see slavery. It's such a horrendous act and completely against Christian morals. So.
Right. How did you get started?
So basically, first off, I was a co-editor with Benjamin Lundy at the Quaker newspaper called The Genius of Universal Emancipation, and that was in Baltimore, Maryland. And I had a thing going on there called The Blacklist, and I ran into a little trouble with that. But basically, I described the barbarities of slavery and like all the whippings and horrendous acts that they had to face. And after that, I decided to start my own newspaper with a friend called The Liberator, in which I basically it was an anti-slavery newspaper directed towards that, just trying to get my voice out. And it just kind of showed, like, it took off, which was nice because it showed how well the media is playing into this kind of abolition movement. And my motto was, our country is the world, our countrymen are mankind. So wonderful. I just want to show that how important our people are in our country.
And how did you become a successful abolitionist?
Well, it took a lot of writing, obviously. I started at an early age, but also networking with people. And I actually started in 1833, the American Anti-Slavery Society, or AAS, as they call it. And its purpose is basically that slaveholding is a heinous crime in the sight of God. And so basically we're just trying to show how unchristian slavery is and how it's completely wrong and how we should stop and emancipate the slaves.
And lastly, tell us, what have you done in regards to the movement?
So basically, as I've just summing it up, I've been engaged with the newspapers such as The Liberator, that's my main focus, and also the American Anti-Slavery Society. So yeah.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you. Elijah Lovejoy was greatly influenced by the abolitionist Dave Nelson's Christian revivalist movement, and he became a preacher. He returned to his former job as an editor of the St. Louis Observer and also started the Alton Observer in Illinois. Many pro-slavery groups were against Lovejoy and his publications, and eventually they rioted after Lovejoy criticized a judge. And when Lovejoy went outside to stop them from setting fire to his warehouse where his printing press was, he was shot and killed. And now an interview with Harriet Tubman.
Hello, and welcome back to Antebellum Action News. Today we have a very special guest joining us, Miss Harriet Tubman.
Thanks, I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so I do have a couple questions. First, tell me, what prompted you to develop the Underground Railroad?
First of all, obviously, slavery is a wrong institution. It's against our morals and our God and our society. I want change, but for now, I find it my duty to help as many people as I can escape this wrong evil.
Wow, you are so strong. So after helping 300 slaves and finding freedom for yourself, what are you doing with the abolition movement?
Well, I'm actively helping John Brown. He has asked me to help in an attack on slaveholders at Harper's Ferry. Other than that, I focus on trying to help people and express my opinion on the abolition of slavery and emancipation of slaves. I am also friends with the leading abolitionists of today, and I take part in anti-slavery meetings.
Thank you so much, Ms. Tubman.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, I'm Sydney Katz, and I want you to join the fight against slavery. I work for The Liberator, and we are an anti-slavery newspaper. We hold meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 7, and we want you to join us. We take donations through the women's groups, and we fight to help slaves like these get emancipation. Please, help these slaves and join our cause.
Hello, fans, and welcome to Lauryn and Kristen Book Club. Today, we will be giving you the inside scoop on the latest hit novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. I loved reading that book. Stowe's story was an immediate hit all across America and sold 10,000 copies within the first week.
10,000?
I know, unbelievable. The novel had a powerful impact on the ending of slavery. Stowe labels slavery as an evil institution that needs to be completely eradicated. She demands that it be replaced by a different type of economic system. She suggests a free market capitalist system. Uncle Tom's Cabin serves as a direct protest to the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850, which made the federal government responsible for returning runaway slaves to their owners.
That was on page 97. I loved reading page 97.
So continuing, it allowed federal commissioners to force citizens to seize and report fugitive slaves, often against their wills, or they may face fines or imprisonment. The Fugitive Slave Act and Uncle Tom's Cabin sparked new energy for the abolition movement. Stowe also included many details in her novel regarding the issue of Christian churches failing to condemn slavery. She crafts her novel with both abolitionist and religious views, portraying slavery as both unchristian and immoral. Overall, Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin proved to be a major trigger in the momentum of the abolitionist movement.
Well, catch us next week on Kristen and Lauryn's Book Club. Peace.
One.
So, have you ladies read the latest edition of The Liberator?
Yes, I love reading that newspaper.
Of course, it's my favorite.
It is so informative, but it honestly breaks my heart to think of the slave families that are separated.
It's so sad. I couldn't even imagine as a mother. Her children being ripped away from her. I need a minute. It's too sad. I can't even imagine. I'm sorry. It's just too sad to talk about.
It's okay.
Did you guys hear the story about the free slave that was put back into slavery?
Yes!
Yes!
What a tragedy!
So
Imagine
sad.
as you finally get your freedom and it's just ripped away from you once again.
It broke my heart.
We are the Women's Group of Boston.
Come, join our cause. We fight for the slaves.
Donate.
Please.
Welcome back to Antebellum Action News. If you've been actively following the abolition movement, you'll definitely know who this next man is. However, do you really know what happened during his raid at Harper's Ferry? Here's Sydney with the scoop on John Brown and his real participation in this great abolition movement.
Thanks, Simran. John Brown was a man who strongly believed in the emancipation of slaves. He was the leader of the raid on Harper's Ferry, and he and his men had to pay severely for their actions supporting the abolitionist cause. In 1855, John Brown killed many supporters of slavery.
Do you support slavery?
Yes!
Finally, do you support slavery?
No.
Oh, I guess you get the win.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
You too.
He and his men raided Harper's Ferry in order to acquire weapons for his slave army. After realizing that word had spread to Washington, John and his men attempted to create a truce with the U.S. Marines.
Here's our white flag, and we're just offering a truce, and we just want to get past this situation. Robert E. Lee from the Marines.
Well, I say no.
Oh my God! I've been stabbed.
After the truce failed, the Marines stormed in and saved the hostages.
We found you guilty of treason. You are to be hanged.
John, along with many of his men, were executed for their crimes. Even after he was hanged, John Brown made an impact on the abolitionist movement. The Northern abolitionists saw his and many of his men's executions as an example of the government's support of slavery, and soon after his hanging, he was seen as a martyr for dying for what he believed in, the emancipation of slaves. He even became a major symbol of pro-union, anti-slavery beliefs, making a serious mark on this time period.
Antebellum Action News!
Catch us next week!